Hello there, and welcome to my new video. This one is entitled Crash Landings, One-Way Tickets, and Co-Expression. And more crucial, you may have noticed that there has been a change of the purple monkey. He is eating ice cream, and not just any ice cream, Rocky Road. There is actually significance to this, because when I'm describing a process I would describe as conventional or standard, like just your standard ligation and cloning, nothing unusual about it, I would call that a vanilla cloning. But since this is not vanilla cloning that I'm about to describe, that's why the monkey's eating Rocky Road. So, yes. This will be henceforth the symbol for stuff that is beyond vanilla cloning, is our monkey friend enjoying an ice cream that isn't vanilla. So, moving forward, let's quickly go back to construct anatomy, which you may remember from previous videos. Yes, you have a promoter, you have a BAM site, you have a NOT site, because, hey, you're a creature of habit like me, right? And here's the gene that you totally cloned. And in this fantasy universe, this vector you have doesn't provide a tag, which most vectors do. Indulge me. This is for the purposes of this example. But let's say after carrying out this cloning, you suddenly have the idea that you want to stick a big old tag onto your protein. Not just something cute, something big. So, introducing, well, what if you want to add a tag to this clone? Here is Taggy McTagface. And yeah, fictional tag, I hasten to add. I didn't want to give publicity to any tag in specifics. Point is, yes, you could PCR the tag with a BAM site at either end, cut it, and also cut the vector, and lovingly attempt to ligate this into your existing clone. This is something you can absolutely do. As long as you dephosphorylate your vector, then you should be fine. Yes, the tag can ligate in backwards. That's a 50-50 shot, a flip of the coin. And the only other detail I would point out is that this is a little bit of a short-sighted approach. You've created a bandwidth of restriction sites. So that means that this gene and Taggy McTagface, basically you can't subclone them ever again, like together. And also, it means, let's say Taggy McTagface behaves so well, you think, gosh, I want to try that on another gene. You have to go through this song and dance again with the 50-50. While wouldn't it be better to have it possibly to use BAM and NOT to swap out this gene for some other shiny gene that you're in love with? So, how are we going to do that? I alluded to this in a previous video, so let's go back. So it's all about reusability. Yes, like the space shuttle, which our monkey is riding in. And hey, as a child of the 80s, the space shuttle was a big deal, okay, even with the disasters. Point was, it was a reusable space truck. So, how would you like a reusable vector? That's one of the options, but also, would you like to just take the insert in their tag as a subclonable unit? So at this point, you choose where do you want the fusion to be. And this is important, depending on your long-term game plan. So let's go further back into turning a curse into a blessing. When I was talking about using compatible ends to collide to get past the whole I must use BAM and NOT in my vector, which is a reasonable passion. So yeah, you've got BAM and Bagel, these two closely related cousins, even though they're from different organisms. And then you cut them, yay. You've got this lovely protrusion that would love to meet one another. And then when they get together, lo and behold, that ain't no BAM site, that ain't no Bagel site. It's none of the above. It's a chimera. So no subcloning for you. Perfect is what I say in this case, because what you've created is something that will laugh off BAM and Bagel, regardless of its parentage. This is important. So now let's go back to our Taggy McTagface. Sorry, not Cloney McCloneface. That's what I put on the side of my ice bucket. Anyway, point is, if you have Bagel here, so this is in my universe, I want to reuse Taggy McTagface. So Bagel meets BAM, while BAM meets BAM, yeah, rocket science. Once again, yes, 50-50 shot, screen away. Hope that you don't lose R2s before you get the clone. And then the result is, fused site can never be used again, but Taggy McTagface, on the other hand, can be used again and again and again and again. Victory dance. You've just created your new vector. Congrats. So, and this is just one scenario, but you can go even deeper and even further. This is where it gets way beyond vanilla cloning. So let's stretch our metaphors even further. I consider the whole ribosomes on the plasmid to be like cars on a highway. But yes, this yellow thing that looks like a butt is actually a ribosome. That's as accurate as I'm going to get. And for the purpose of this diagram, I'm adding a few extra details that yes, there's a ribosome binding site right after the promoter, which I wasn't emphasizing. And also in purple is a stop codon because duh. So onto the highway at the ribosome binding site, the ribosome goes, cruises along, and then exits when the stop codon happens. Yay, you get the protein you totally want. Lovely. However, not all proteins are happy playing on their own. Some of them, in fact, refuse to. Let's say it needs something to go with. In this case, it needs FTB, which stands in this case for fluffy teddy bear. Point is, this gene maybe doesn't want to play on its own. You need to co-express. And before you say anything, yes, you could clone it into a separate plasmid, have a different resistance cassette, a different origin of replication, and do it that way. But what if these guys never want to be apart, like ever, ever, ever? So here's the details, is that, and since we're going into the not site this time, because we're clearly just not monkeying with BAM this point, we have BSP120I at the start. So introduced by our primer is the restriction site, and this, well, you're not limited to just this one, but this is my favorite ribosome binding site that I introduce when I'm getting adventurous. So, and then right after that is the start of FTB. Then FTB has its own stop codon and it has a not one site. So, super. We cut this with love. Yes, it's a directionless cloning, still thinking about that. We cut it, we clone it, and then boom, the not one meets BSP and is fused to destruction. But the highway is now different. You have an on-ramp, an on-off ramp, another on-ramp, and another off-ramp. As a result, when this plasmid is present in your cells, boop, you get the protein you totally want and FTB protein they love. They are together forever. And as a side effect, because if these guys are, like I said, like Torval and Dean, who, okay, you'll have to Google that one. Morecambe and Wise, also Google. Laurel and Hardy, whatever. Point is that using BAMH1 and NOT1, you can take this union to another E. coli vector, and it'll have its own ribosome binding site still sitting in the middle there, so they will still function as a unit, because you chose where you fuse and where you clone. That's the distinction. So that's the point I'm trying to get across with, is you can intentionally destroy restriction sites for your long game purpose. Whether it's a vector or a unit, pick. And there you are. I realize I went through it a mile a minute. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And as ever, if you're enjoying my videos, it would mean a lot to me if you felt like buying me a coffee. But anyway, either way, I'm thrilled you're watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. But also, in my efforts to continue encouraging, well, anyone to comment, my first commenter even would be nice, is the Purple Monkey is wondering where you guys, or gals, or other, from. So if you feel like you don't have a question, but if you just want to give your location, that would be really nice. You don't need your street address, just a country would do fine. Thank you so much. But either way, I really hope you've enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.